Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Elise.
Hosts of Crack One Open with Mike and Elise.
A podcast about brews, news, and pop culture reviews.
Every Friday, we choose a new craft beer from a different brewery and talk about
the history of the beer,
what's in it,
how it was made,
the history of the brewery,
along with tasting notes and more fun facts.
After that, come chill with us as we bring you the latest in pop culture news and reviews.
So check out Kraken When Open, part of the Forgotten Entertainment family.
Hello there, I'm Colleen.
I'm Anders.
And I'm Daniel.
We're three nerds that met through our love of science fiction and fantasy storytelling. Of course, one of our favorites is George Lucas's signature achievement, Star Wars.
And if there's one thing the internet definitely doesn't have enough of, it's nerds talking about Star Wars. So here we are with yet another Star Wars podcast, where each week we discuss one of the films in the current Star Wars canon.
From the sands of Tatooine to the levels of Coruscant, we cover it all. Yet another Star Wars podcast is available wherever you get your podcast and is part of the Forgotten Entertainment family.
Blessed is he who in the name of charity and goodwill shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness. For he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
All right, week number 2 here under the Forgotten Entertainment banner on the QT, the Quentin Tarantino film podcast. If you listened to us last week, I'm John.
And I'm Lloyd.
And we're going through the 10 films in the Quentin Tarantino universe, I guess you could say, the films he has directed, not all the ones he's written. Last week was Reservoir Dogs. Thanks again to our friend and guest, the redheaded stranger, Laura, for sitting with us on that one. This
no matter
week,
how long we know her, she'll be the redheaded stranger.
She's the redheaded stranger. That's it. We met her on the internet. It's creepy. So yeah, this week we are obviously, if you know anything about Quentin Tarantino, we're pulling right into Pulp Fiction again. As we said on the last episode, I kind of did a draw from the hat for our guests. And as I said last week for Reservoir Dogs, Laura obviously picked a winner. And our guest today, our buddy Shane from the Media Mosh Podcast, who has been, who's guested on our show, Pint O'Comics, several times. I think he probably picked, his name getting picked for this might be the big dog that everybody was hoping for.
Yeah, he picked the jackpot.
Yes, I did. Thank you for having me on. But yeah, it was funny because I laughed. I was talking to Chris and I was like, how cosmic is it that my name gets pulled for this movie?
Yeah. Because I have a question now. We're going to get into in a second. We're going to get into like kind of our histories with Pulp Fiction. But like you tweeted something yesterday from recording that you were going to watch the movie. But right. you mentioned a number, Shane. Now, was that maybe a fake number or was that an approximation of a real number of how many times you watched this?
That's an approximation of a real number. It's well over 100 times I've seen this movie.
Damn.
And but I haven't seen it in about 5 years. So just indulge me real quick. Post high school, I was joining the military. So I had to wait like 3 months for some reason. Right. And back then we had the black box. So we got pay-per-view movies, if you remember the black box.
Oh, yeah.
Pulp Fiction was on that. I'm not lying to you. You could ask Chris. I watched Pulp Fiction 2 times a day for at least 90 straight days, sometimes 3. That's
Good
where
Lord.
I was at in my life.
All right. 2.5 hour movie.
Yes.
All right. So maybe the military did need to give you a little discipline or maybe not discipline, maybe something to do. Right. Having seen it over 100 times, but not in the last 5 years and your military stuff, let's say 20 years ago. So
yes.
So that was a while ago. While watching it for this podcast, were you easily like reciting lines before they were coming out or have you kind of forgotten it?
No, I was easily reciting lines before they came out. I did enjoy the performances more after not watching it for a while, especially John Travolta's and Samuel L. Jackson's performances.
So I think that's a good start. That's a good story to start off with. My story, because I think Lloyd has a really good one too. My story is, as I mentioned, I had seen Reservoir Dogs on video, enjoyed it. And back in the day, there was no internet. I used to go to the movies all the time with friends, and I had not really heard of Pulp Fiction coming out. I mean, I knew Tarantino had another thing coming out, but it wasn't like, you know, the deluge of information nowadays. I think I saw the trailer like the day before it came out. John Travolta, crime movie. Hadn't heard of Travolta in a couple of years. And me and my friends went. This thing opened on October 14th, 1994. I would have been 2 weeks away from turning 19 years old. So I was 18 when this came out. And yeah, me and my friends went. So my story, nothing near 100 times, but the period from probably October of 94 through maybe February or March of 95, because remember, movies used to play a lot longer, and this was a mainstay. This stayed for a long time, is me and my friends went back to the theater and saw this easily 9 times. We would just be like, what are you doing tonight? Nothing going on. Let's go see Pulp Fiction again. And it became a communal thing where, like, I hate to say it because I hate that type of person now, but we're in the theater sprouting out lines. You know what I mean? I remember my good friend Barry one time in the beginning when Honey Bunny screams out, anybody move and I'll execute every last motherfucking one. Yeah, he dropped that and we're all laughing. Bunch of douchebag kids, by the way. I feel bad if you were in the Connecticut area going to see Pulp Fiction in 1994 when we were in there, but that's it. So I think what's interesting about it is it's a film that I love. All right, I'm going to give that right there. Saw it probably 10 times, 9 times in the theaters. Came out in video. I watched it several times again. I have a clear memory of watching this with my wife, my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, in probably about 2001. And I remember she didn't really care for it. It wasn't her thing. And I honestly think that might have been the last time I've seen it. And it's weird, like you said, Shane, the familiarity, because I've watched this 2 nights ago. And it was like I had seen it yesterday, but I'm pretty sure I could say I easily haven't seen this in maybe easily 20 years. Yeah. I just don't know what happened. I own the Blu-ray. I guess I saw it so many times. I never felt like I have to throw this in now because I almost feel like I lived in that movie having seen it enough. Nothing like Shane. Shane's the landlord of Pulp Fiction. but
yeah, he's the landlord.
But Lloyd, you've got a super interesting story because of what your first viewing of Pulp Fiction revolved around. What was that?
Right. So this came out, October 14th, you said?
October 14th,
1994. Yep. I met a young lady in 1994 at the gym. And one night we decided to go out with a bunch of folks. And we went to a little place called Murphy and Scarletti's over in Farmington. And we were hanging out in there, and she and I got to talking. And we both started talking about this movie. And so this was early November. And I was like, no, I haven't seen it yet. I want to go see it. And she's like, well, I want to go see it too. So let's go. So she sort of like just pulled me right in. And we went to see it on November 4th, which was the day before her birthday. And so that was our first date. My wife and my first date was Pulp Fiction. Nice. November 4th, 1994.
Your wife that you're with now.
Yeah, still with
3 kids later. So that answers the universal question of, is an anal rape scene in a movie on a first date a deal breaker? And apparently it was not.
No,
it was not.
Sealed the deal.
It sealed the deal, apparently. All right. So as we said, this is QT's second film, directed by Quentin Tarantino, screenplay by Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avery. Actually, let me take that back. Screenplay by Quentin Tarantino, but the stories by Quentin Tarantino and his writing partner, Roger Avery. This was originally conceived in like 1990 as like a film project that they were going to try to do with a third director. And it was going to be we'll talk about the story structure in a minute, but it was going to kind of be like 3 different stories directed by 3 different people. Something I didn't realize, on our last episode, the Reservoir Dogs episode, is that Roger Avery wrote all of Stephen Wright's radio dialogue in Reservoir Dogs. So every little, K-Billy Super Sounds of the 70s interlude was actually written by Roger Avery. Roger Avery also wrote and directed a very cool, around the same time, crime thriller called Killing Zoe. I don't know if either of you guys ever saw that. And he also wrote, which I didn't realize, the very recent Robert Zemeckis CGI Beowulf adaptation. So he's been around a bit. As
a matter of fact, I just found that in my closet on HD DVD.
Oh, HD DVD. You chose
I had
poorly.
to toss it.
You chose poorly.
Yeah, I did.
All right. So just a couple quick things before we start getting into a little bit more. This was filmed this is essentially an LA crime story. This was filmed all over Los Angeles, Glendale, Beverly Hills, North Hollywood. Very interesting tidbit. The Hawthorne Grill in Hawthorne, California, where the opening and closing segments of the film take place, is now an AutoZone. So get in the zone, AutoZone. And
they had to tear that place down.
They tore it down. They tore it down and they put up a fucking AutoZone. This was filmed between September 20th to November 30th, 1993. Now, since we finished off with the Reservoir Dogs, which came out in 92, in between this time, Tarantino's had a couple other movies come out. Right before this, in terms of what he wrote, Natural Born Killers came out right in the summertime. And he had written that. And a year prior, True Romance. So he's building up, right? So he didn't direct either of those, but you're starting to see this guy become more and more of a force in Hollywood. Yeah. So Lloyd, what do we got? Why don't you want a bumper sticker or where do you want to go right now?
So basically this is the story it combines the story of the lives of two mob hitmen, a boxer, a gangster and his wife, a pair of diner bandits, and they're all woven together in four funny, bizarre, thrilling tales of violence and redemption.
All right, very fair. Do you want to go through the story structure so the folks out there, because one of the things that immediately catches you, Shane, I mean, I don't know if you felt the same way, but like when I saw this back in 1994, I can't think of a movie I'd ever seen that played with the scene structure and time like this did. Do you agree with that?
No, I totally agree. Like this is like one of the first, and I think it's the best nonlinear storytelling I've seen in a movie, period. And I think that's what drew me in the first time I saw it. I've never seen a movie kind of structured that way.
There have been movies, but this one just hits on all cylinders. The dialogue is snappy and engaging, and it drives a story. There's so much momentum, and the changing narrative structure just keeps you constantly interested. Like what's going to happen next at every single moment.
Reservoir Dogs plays with time structure as well, but it's a little bit less. It's a little bit more straightforward, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
This one you'd have to kind of look at it. Well, let's go over the story structure real quick and then kind of talk about that.
All right. So you've got basically it's bookended. The film is bookended by a prologue and an epilogue of the Diner Bandits. And then in between those, there's three stories. You've got the story of the hitman, Vincent Vega and Mia. And then you have the second story of prize fighter, Bruce Coolidge.
Butch.
And then what'd I say?
Bruce.
Butch Coolidge. And then you've got the third story of the hitman, Jules Winnfield.
That's the structure. If you want to get, we'll get into it in a second, but if you wanted to get real, I guess, linear with this thing, I guess someone at some point had kind of edited it.
I've got it all written down here too.
Yeah. Into what the structure would be. What would be the first scene in the movie if it was edited correctly or linearly, I guess? Linearly.
All right. So let me give you what the chapters are now.
Okay.
All right. So the chapters, I'm going to give you 7 chapters. First chapter is the prologue, the diner. All right. Second chapter is the prelude to Vincent Vega and Marsellus' wife. The third chapter is Vincent Vega and Marsellus' wife. The fourth chapter is the prelude to the Gold Watch, which is a flashback and a present story. And then the fifth chapter, you've got the Gold Watch. The sixth chapter is called the Bonnie situation that deals with Jules. And the seventh chapter is the epilogue, the Diner Part 2.
And if you were to put these in a linear order, prelude to the Gold Watch would be the first thing.
That's right.
And the Gold Watch would be the end. The very last scene of this movie technically is when Bruce Willis and Butch and Fabian take off on the chopper.
That's right.
That would be the last scene of this movie. It's amazing after not having seen it in so long, kind of like pushing that stuff around in my head. All right, let's jump into the cast. Let's talk about who's in this movie. This is going to be a huge fucking list, but we could do this.
Right. All right. So you've got John Travolta as Vincent Vega, the hitman who works for Marsellus Wallace. He provides, to me anyway, he's kind of like just got this ingenuously goofy charisma. He's sort of like unsuspectingly innocent and just goofy, and it totally, resurged his career, because before this he was, I guess, in a bit of a slump. I mean, nobody was really using him much.
This is the second comeback. Shane, do you remember what the first comeback was a couple years prior to this?
For John Travolta?
Yeah.
I know he was kind of dead in the water after Look Who's Talking, too.
Look Who's Talking 1 was the first one. Yeah.
Right.
Look Who's Talking 1 came out and the guy hadn't been heard from in years.
Right.
And what's funny is you never think about it because you don't always place people together. But Bruce Willis voiced the baby in Look Who's Talking. So
that's right.
Those guys were in that together. You never think about that stuff.
There's a lot of connections between these movies and other movies as well. So he accepted a reduced rate of $150,000 to make this movie, but he also got an Oscar nomination for the best actor and a total, revitalized his career.
He was hot for like 6 or 7 years after that.
Oh, absolutely.
Michael Madsen, who played Vic Vega in Reservoir Dogs, he was really supposed to be this character, but he was involved with Wyatt Earp, and so they wrote it, for this character instead.
When I was doing research on this about actors like Madsen who said no to this movie, they regretted it.
Absolutely.
They all regretted it. There's several that were offered a role that said no for whatever reason, and every one of them regretted it.
Absolutely. I know Harvey Weinstein even pushed for Daniel Day-Lewis for that part as well.
Yep.
That son of a bitch. All right. So the next one, we've got Samuel L. Jackson as Jules Winnfield. He's Vincent's partner. He basically, to me, provides the soul and the spirit, really, of the movie. Tarantino did write it with Jules, the Jules character with Jackson in mind. But Jackson's first audition kind of went off script, and Samuel Jackson was not ready for that. And I guess he had a bad sort of reading. And after that, it was actually offered to, what do I have written here?
Paul Calderon, who plays the bartender who says,
that's it. Yeah.
My name is Paul and the shit's between y'all.
Yeah.
He actually was going to be given the role after Jackson had a bad audition. And Jackson, I guess, talked Tarantino into letting him stay on, kind of getting into the like weird structure of this movie again, something that I don't think I ever noticed in any of my viewings before. And it makes sense, but you just don't think of it necessarily at the time. So in the jumping a little bit ahead, in the scene where Butch throws the fight and Vincent Vega is going to Butch's dressing room to talk to Marsellus about, where is he and find him. He's with Paul. He's not with Jules because Jules has quit at this point. And I never really put two and two together. I never really paid attention to the fact that apparently, like, in this world, Paul would have been Jules's replacement. Like, he's like the next guy or he's another guy. You know what I mean? Like, they're not together because at that point, Jules has already told Marsellus at the meeting prior, I'm done.
I don't mean to contradict you, but he's with Marsellus.
Who's with Marsellus?
Are you talking about when Butch goes back and gets his watch?
No. I'm talking about
never mind.
When Shane, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, when he first throws the fight, when the fight is over and he has to get out of town.
Yeah, you got a shot of Vincent and Paul walking down the hallway to meet Marsellus in the dressing room.
Correct.
And that's when Vincent says to Mia, like, how you doing?
Yeah,
like,
I just got mixed up there for a second.
Yeah,
I noticed that. I noticed that as well for the first time after not seeing it for 5 years. Like, in the 100 times I watched it, I never really put that together. I finally recognized that fact when I saw it last night because I was taking notes this time. I was like, seriously, I was taking notes. And I wrote that scene down. I was like, okay, you're right.
Yeah, because so essentially the scene where they go to bring the briefcase to Marsellus, which takes place after the second diner scene, is when Jules says, I'm done. Right. And from that point forward, you don't see him again. And it's just, again, it's another part of the kind of genius and the narrative structure that, that make you go, oh, shit, I never noticed that before.
Right. And what I didn't notice before is John Travolta is the only actor who's in all 4 of these vignettes.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Vincent Vega is the only character that carries through every one. Well, 2 brief moments in the Gold Watch, him going to see Marsellus and then him getting shot in the toilet. But all right, Master, who else we got?
All right. So we have Uma Thurman as Mia Wallace, the wife of Marsellus. And she's basically an aspiring actress. And she needs to, well, not she, but Vince Vega needs to take her out on a date. Basically, because Marsellus is out of town, and you got to keep Uma Thurman busy. You can't just leave her home alone.
She's got but Shane, what is the character's reputation for gangsters that have taken her out and taken care of her before?
Not good. Thrown through a second story glass structure.
Yeah. Yeah,
he gave her a foot massage.
Yeah, a foot massage led to a speech impediment.
Yeah, and you can tell Vince Vega is, working up to figuring out what the hell he's going to do because he don't want that to be him.
Who would? No. And you know what? That's the scene where Travolta is in the bathroom talking to himself.
Oh, that's a great scene.
It's fucking genius.
That's one of my favorite scenes, and it's like my second favorite scene in this movie is that bathroom scene when he's talking about loyalty, and he's going to go out there and just tell her, "Have a good night. I'm going to go home and
talking in the mirror to
That's
himself.
all you're going to do."
Yeah.
Hey, there's another bathroom. So that's a great bathroom scene. But every time that fucking Vince goes to the bathroom, some shit goes down.
Yeah, it's a theme in the movie. Every time Vince goes to the bathroom, so much so that I read and this is just fan theory, but I read this whole thing about how after the overdosing with Mia happens, Vince you're supposed to, I guess, kind of figure that Vince drops drugs totally and is going cold. And apparently heroin will constipate you. And that's supposed to be kind of an underlying reason he keeps going to take a shit is because he's getting clean. That is not something Tarantino's come out with, but that's something someone put out there. But it does kind of make you laugh because he goes to take a shit 2 times in this movie, and then he goes in the bathroom to talk to himself, and every time something bad happens.
That's hilarious. Also associated with that role was Holly Hunter and Meg Ryan. Obviously, wasn't any of those, but also Alfred Woodward and Meg Tilly.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Uma Thurman is a beautiful woman, but that wig, that haircut, that just kills me.
Yeah. All right. Then you have Harvey Keitel as Winston Wolfe. He's the cleaner who basically comes to clean up the mess that Jules and Vincent made. Or I should say Vincent, really.
Okay. I got a question about the Wolf. Shane, how many, and I've said this from the first time I saw this movie, so it was just something this reminded me of. How many, I don't know, suit and tie parties happen at 8 a.m?
None that I could think of.
He's dressed in a suit and tie. There's champagne glasses. He's at some kind of fucking.
I think it was an all-night affair.
Okay,
that's
all right.
I'm looking at it. It was an overnight thing.
Okay,
right, usually that's done by 8 o'clock. Usually that's done by 5 to 6. You're winding down.
Yeah,
not these guys.
Nobody parties like a wolf party, I guess. All right, I've always thought that was funny because they literally tell you that it's 8 o'clock in the morning,
right?
And they call him, and he's at a fucking dinner party. It's weird.
So moving on from Harvey, you got Tim Roth as Ringo / Pumpkin, one of the burglars. He's a diner bandit. He was also in Reservoir Dogs with Keitel. This time he speaks with his natural London accent.
Yep. Which
is a definite bonus because not so good in Reservoir Dogs.
He's not terrible, but it's
not terrible, but
it's super. Him doing an American accent is very, we talked about in the Reservoir Dogs episode. It's very obvious he's doing an American accent.
Right. Exactly. And then his partner is Amanda Plummer as Yolanda / Honey Bunny, who, she's great. She's absolutely great in this. Roth brought her on. Actually, he wanted Tarantino to write a part for her.
You cannot convince me that Amanda Plummer is not totally fucking nuts in real life.
Oh, she's got to be.
She is not a normal woman. Nope, not at all.
Man, oh man. Ving Rhames as Marsellus Wallace, the crime boss and employer of Jules and Vincent. According to the producer, what's his name? Bender?
Lawrence Bender. Yeah.
Lawrence Bender. Yeah. Lawrence. He gave one of the best auditions he had ever seen. And basically this led him to a lot of more high profile roles and really started his career.
Somebody that turned that role down that said no to it. Shane, do you know this one?
I don't.
Sid Haig.
Sid Haig
said no to Marsellus Wallace and regretted it. He said afterwards.
I think it worked better than Ving Rhames though.
I'm fine with it. And you know what's cool? We talked about Travolta just being a return to form for him or a big boost for Ving Rhames and Samuel L. Jackson. This movie was star maker, because think about it. Samuel L. Jackson had been around for a while. He'd done little things here and there, but this was, Jurassic Park, but he was a small role. This was the thing that, got him a best supporting actor nomination. The Ezekiel speech, becomes super famous, bad motherfucker wallet. He's the guy. Ving Rhames, essentially had never been in much of anything at this point. And 2 years later, he's on the Mission Impossible squad
series. Right. And I also wrote Tim Roth. This launched him into bigger movies. Cause he went on a 5-year, 6-year streak where he was in everything from Hoodlums to you name it, he was in it, and Uma Thurman as well. Like this movie, like did so much for almost every actor in this damn movie.
Uma Thurman in particular, because she essentially became the marketing for this movie. Every poster, everything was her laying on the bed. You know what I mean? Smoking the cigarette, and that is the visual. If you were to say, think of Pulp Fiction a visual, you're going to go to Uma Thurman laying on the bed.
Right.
Exactly. Then you have Eric Stoltz as Lance. He's Vincent's drug dealer. Gary Oldman was actually one of the preferred choices for that role, who played a great drug dealer in True
Drexel.
Romance.
Yeah, Drexel.
Yeah, Drexel.
He must have thought it was White Boy Day.
Yeah. Rosanna Arquette as Jody, his wife. Believe it or not, Pam Grier read for the role, but Tarantino didn't believe that audiences would think it's plausible that the Lance character would be yelling at her. I totally agree.
I agree, and it would have been sad if he had not given her the lead in his next movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
He didn't waste her. He kept her in the wings.
And I'll just mention him, but her brother, Robert Arquette, later to become Alexis Arquette, played the fourth man, guy who emerges from the bathroom.
Yeah.
Miraculously misses them with every shot.
You might remember him best as George in The Wedding Singer. He is the Boy George keyboard player.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, I mean, do you have more or no?
I got three more.
All right, go ahead.
Three more. Christopher Walken as Captain Coons, a U.S. Air Force Vietnam vet who delivers the watch, the coveted gold watch to Butch, to a young Butch.
Shane, real quick, where did he hide the watch?
Up his ass.
Perfect.
The scene where Coons explains the heritage of the watch to young Butch is fucking genius. Christopher Walken is genius. Just the look on the kid's face where he's just like, like he's really listening to him, and later in the movie when, Butch has grown up, but later in the movie when he's so freaked out over the watch being missing, you kind of understand that even though he was like 5 or 6, that it wasn't like a lifetime of him learning about this watch that got him to that point. It was that moment. Like he truly took all the shit he said. What is this kid going to understand about Hanoi Pit Hell? And he's not going to know anything, but he literally understood everything, and that imprinted on him. And you get that from that. Again, we talk about Tarantino on this show. Obviously it's a Tarantino show, but his dialogue is so fucking dynamite. In this movie, there are lines in this movie that I cannot even explain why I love them, and I love them. One in particular is one scene in particular is at the end of the Butch Marsellus fiasco, and it's the whole scene where Butch and Marsellus are talking about, are we good? That whole thing is great, and one of my favorite lines of this whole movie, and I couldn't even tell you why, is what does he say? Your LA privileges are revoked.
Right.
It's just a little line, but it says so much. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. Keep going, Lloyd. This movie.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. It's the dialogue drives this thing. Dialogue in this movie is better than action scenes in most other movies.
Oh yeah.
This is the best written movie I've ever seen. That's why this is my number one movie of all time. Like nothing would be better than this for me. This movie is cool. That's all I think about is like, this movie is fucking cool. And it's the best written movie. That's why I think it translates time. Like you can watch this movie in any year and it'll make sense.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. All right. 2 more to finish this off. Bruce Willis as
You're not gonna get that name right, dude.
Let me start that over. Bruce Willis as Butch Coolidge. He's an aging boxer on the run from Marsellus because he double-crossed him. Marsellus paid him to throw the fight, be the palooka, and he doesn't. He wins the fight, actually kills the guy, takes off.
One real note in this. This is what I read. Harvey Keitel actually convinced Bruce Willis to take the role as Butch because he liked Reservoir Dogs so much. And Tarantino said Butch is the one who keyed Vincent's car.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. You kind of assume that, but he, and a lot of times directors or writers won't come out and say that stuff. Yeah. He came right out and said it. Yes. Butch was one. Why not?
Right. You call him Palooka.
Call him a Palooka. You call him Punchy. And honestly, for no fucking real reason. just because he looked at him. I mean, I get it. They're two criminals, two tough guys. But yeah, like no fucking reason.
Yeah, hey, friend.
And Bruce Willis, again, not to the extent of John Travolta, but 1994 Bruce Willis needed a hand. Like,
oh, that's
absolutely.
right. He took a serious pay cut, even though his cut was $800,000. He also got a percentage of the box office, which really soared right up there.
Yeah, he had to. I mean, again, this isn't Die Hard or Die Hard 2 Bruce Willis. This is Color of Night Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
Hudson Hawk.
This is shit ain't going the way I wanted it to go, Bruce Willis. And this kind of, again, re-energized his career.
Yep. And the last one, Maria de Medeiros as Fabienne, Bruce Willis's Butch's girlfriend. Really cute Portuguese actress who was also in Henry and June with Uma Thurman.
Something that hasn't changed in the 20 years since I saw this last is that she still fucking annoys me. There's just something about her voice. If I were to give this at the end of this, when we rate this, if I were to give this any less of the rating I were to give it, it would be based on her.
Oh,
she fucking kills. Shane, do you feel the same way?
John, I swear to God, we're on the same vibe right now. I'm like, this is the only thing. This is the worst part of this goddamn movie is Fabienne.
Yeah.
She's definitely the weakest link.
Yes. Her scenes with Bruce Willis in the hotel drive me crazy. I hate her. I want her dead.
Yeah.
I don't like her. She brings down this entire movie. I can't stand it.
I had a memory of thinking every time I saw this movie in the past, I thought Bruce Willis should just jump on top of Esmeralda de Villalobos because she's pretty hot and she's not nearly as fucking annoying as Fabienne or whatever her name is. Fabienne.
Oh, Fabienne. Yeah. She's annoying, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't tend to think that there's any weaker segment in this. I think all the segments have their merit, but out of the whole movie, her and him in the hotel room
is the weakest link.
Is the weakest link, but it's so tiny. But even then, the dialogue feels real. It feels lived in. It feels like they are like a weird, like brand new couple, sugar pop and all that shit, but she's fucking annoying as fuck.
Oh, she's annoying.
And I was pissed at her just about as much as Butch was for not remembering or not saying whether she remembers if she got the watch or not.
Can I tell you something about that scene though? Let me tell you something real quick about that scene. I love that dialogue again, because I felt myself in that dialogue. I felt that way towards my wife or other people where you kind of say you think that you're clear and they didn't get it maybe. And you start getting he throws the TV.
Just tell me if you got it one way or the other.
He throws the TV and then he immediately goes, it's not your fault. I didn't give you how important it was. But then because you see, he loves her and he doesn't want to scare her. But then in the next scene, when he's driving to the car, he's like, I fucking told her. have either one of
exactly
you
what I would do.
Not felt that way, right?
Oh, yes.
We have all done that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to save face and go, baby, I love you. You I understand this isn't your fault. And then as soon as you get out by yourself, you're slamming shit around.
Absolutely.
All right. So now that we got the cast through, why don't we kind of go through a little bit here and there with some of our favorite scenes in this film? Shane, why don't you highlight a couple things that always stand out to you or that you just love?
Well, I love, like I said, 95% of this movie. But my favorite scenes after watching it 2 nights ago definitely was the John Travolta Uma Thurman scene where they go to Jack Robert Slim's and then she has the overdose. And then they go to Eric Stoltz's place to kind of revive her. Cause that was one of the longer scenes in the entire movie. So that encompassed a lot of things. That's my favorite scene of the movie. If I had a second, it'd be when they accidentally shot Marv in the back seat and they had to clean up the brains.
I think that might be the most memorable scene of the entire movie.
Right. Right. That scene is my second favorite scene. When I rewatched this, I kept thinking to myself, God damn it. John Travolta is so fucking cool in this movie. And I'm sorry for all you Grease fans and Urban Cowboy fans, but this is John Travolta's opus. This is the best thing he's ever done in his career.
Oh, by far.
Yeah.
Right.
By far.
Yeah, he personified this movie. And so did Samuel L. Jackson. So those are my 2 favorite scenes. Everything with John Travolta and Uma Thurman rang true for me. I love the fact that when he walked into her apartment and even though she can hear what he's saying, she still made him like hit the intercom button. That made me laugh. That made me laugh when I watched it the other night, because I'm like, you can hear him, but you're making him like touch the button and speaking to her.
And you got that Son of the Preacher Man song in the background. It's another thing we didn't even talk about yet.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Music,
Right. It's the little details that I missed, like, you know, probably in a while, that hit me. I'm like, shit, that was genius, or that is so goddamn funny.
Mm-hmm.
And the music just sprinkles in at the right time. Like Tarantino, I don't want to say he's the best, but he's one of the best putting together soundtracks and implementing music in his movie structures.
Yeah.
Because this soundtrack was all over the place when it came out. Like Son of a Preacher Man, Jungle Boogie, like you name it, Al Green. It was, those are that's what my takeaway. So
you're never going to hear Mr. Lou by Dick Dale and not think of the opening credits of this movie.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, that song was much older than this. It's not a super popular song per se, but like, you know, it's surf guitar, but like,
right.
Like literally you go somewhere now and someone were to play that, you immediately picture the credits to Pulp Fiction going up.
Right.
Yes.
Now, I do want to say something to Shane's point that, again, kind of like in between what I said before about never noticing that Jules wasn't with Vince in that scene in the arena. And this is something that, you know, as a non-drug addict, I don't know. But so the line when Jules is buying the heroin from Lance and Lance says, I'm out of balloons, do you mind a baggie, is so much more important than I ever realized.
Mm-hmm.
Because the only reason she snorted it is because it was in a baggie and she thought it was Coke. Now, I understood that she thought it was Coke. I always understood that. But I never really thought about the fact that heroin apparently is mostly kept in balloons by addicts or by people that sell it. So that one little fucking detail ends up kind of costing, you know, Vincent this fucking terrible night, is that he chooses to have it put in a baggie instead of a balloon. And she, you know, stupidly, you know, shouldn't have done the Coke either. But by the way, LA, like you just doing Coke on the sink in front of a bunch of other women. Is that a thing?
Yeah,
that's the thing, so. Apparently. Yeah, absolutely.
She probably wasn't the only one.
I said, goddamn.
Goddamn.
All right, Manster, what's some of the stuff that really gets you going in Pulp Fiction?
You know, I really enjoy that first scene with Brett, you know, when they go in to get the briefcase for Marsellus and they're heading in there, you know, there's the whole foot massage talk and all that. But once they're inside, every aspect of that scene is like shot perfectly just to show you the tension that's constantly building in there and how like the position of power that Jules is. And you've got Brett sitting in the chair with Vince behind him where he can't even see him in the kitchen. And, you know, he's just spouting all these things and he's eating his burger and drinking his drink. You know, you got the really intense close up of Jules and then you've got the other guy shrinking down. It's just so well set up to deliver something. Cause you know, I mean, this is like the beginning of the movie. You don't really know what to expect yet. And then, but you just know something's happening and you know, there's no escape for this guy. It just really delivers. It just really sets up the whole entire movie.
Right. And I read where Samuel Jackson improvised when he flipped a table in that scene.
Yeah.
That was actually Frank Whaley's natural reaction when he flipped that table and they just kept shooting that one shot. So
one of the things I love about this movie, and they establish it before they get to the apartment, but you know, in so many movies, if we were to follow a couple hitmen to go in to kill a couple of guys that stole from their boss, it would be the hitmen get there, shoot them up, it's over. But like we meet these two guys in the car talking about McDonald's in Amsterdam. And one of the lines that I love that really exemplifies that is when they get to the door and he says, what time is it? And he's like 7:22. And then Jules says, we haven't, you know, it's not time yet. Let's hang back. They go back down the hall and talk more about the Antoine Rockamora thing, right? The foot massage. And then at the end of that, he says to him, let's get into character. Like literally, you're seeing these two. It's like you, me, and Shane are talking right now, and then we go, let's go and get in character, and then we go murder a bunch of people.
Right. Yeah, we're just hanging out talking, and then all of a sudden we got to do our job.
And then we get caught, and someone goes, "Did you hear about those three guys that killed those dudes?" You know, like 20 minutes before they were recording a podcast. Like you go, what? Because you don't normalize criminals or villains in film. You kind of think that they're, this kind of one note character. I love that. I love that when he says that. And yeah, you're right. When he goes in there and, when he shoots flock of seagulls and he's he purposely, one of my favorite things he does is when he says, can I take a sip of your soda, and drinks the whole fucking thing.
Right.
Right.
It's all power moves. It's all teaching Brett a lesson.
It's a cornerstone of a good breakfast.
It is. Marsellus Wallace. Do you guys agree? Like for like a some kind of criminal overlord, he gets double crossed a lot. Like Butch fucks him over, Brett fucks him over. Does this guy not like come across as fucking threatening? I don't know.
He seems badass to me.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys kind of pick those. I gotta say, especially the first time I saw this movie, it's not necessarily my favorite of the segments, but the Bruce and Marsellus Meet the Hillbillies segment is incredible, because I remember seeing this in the movies, and I was a kid, and it's even now, even in my 40s, movies don't often make me go, where's this going? And that whole bit made me go, where is this going? Like, what does this have to do with anything else?
Right.
So the guy the guy knocks him out, and then they got ball gags in their mouths, and you're like, okay, bad shit's going to happen. But people don't get, there's not going to be any like weird anal rape or anything in this. And then Peter Green, who, by the way, is a fucking great character actor, always plays a bad guy who plays Zed. He shows up and he says the words, bring out the gimp. And I still remember seeing it the first time in the theaters, and this time paying attention even more, because the guy Maynard is undoing the box in the background. Yeah. And Lindsay, my wife, hasn't seen this movie in 20 plus years, doesn't remember. And when the gimp comes out, she goes, that's not going to be good. And absolutely right. But like that whole segment, and again, it colors people with, I guess you could say, whose morals might not be the best. It colors them differently than you see, because think about the situation. Me, we're in the situation where we have just double crossed this guy. We have a chance to get away clean. He's being taken care of. You're going to get away.
He's going to be killed.
He's going to be killed. And if he's not killed, he's going to be kept some kind of weird sex puppet for a long time. You're gone. You get to go. And Butch decides to go back. You see this guy who did this very questionable thing. Two things. First of all, he stole the money that, it's all thievery, I guess, but he kind of went against any honor he might've had and stole it. And he also has no fucking problem with the fact that he killed the guy in the ring. He kind of puts it off as, well, he shouldn't have gotten in the ring with me that night.
Plus he freaking ran him over.
Right. And he runs Marsellus over. I don't know. I love that bit, because, it goes to show that this character is maybe still has some decency left in him. And also the fact that Marsellus doesn't kill him right then and there and doesn't renege on it. I mean, obviously his attention somewhere else, but that whole bit.
Yeah, it's the redemption that really makes that story.
Yeah. I still, again, the thing I always remember about that bit is just wondering, the rest of the movie, you're like, okay, I kind of can tell this is going to go there. This is going to go there. It's told brilliantly, but it might not be shocking. But when you got to that whole bit in that pawn store, I did not have any fucking clue what was going on. Shane, do you agree? The first time you saw this 100 times ago?
Oh, this was probably the most jarring scene. I when I first watched it, I didn't know what the hell was going on. And then you see the gimp come out of the box, and I'm like, what the I had no idea. And that the gimp is just kind of just chilling there.
Yeah, then they chain him up.
Right. It was the most bizarre scene I've seen in a movie up until this point in my life, because I was 17 when I saw this for the first time. Or no, 15 when I saw this for the first time. So yeah, that was like bizarre. But I agree with Bruce Willis. I feel like he did what he did because it would not even things out with Marsellus, but it would make things copacetic with Marsellus, where he knew it was the right thing to do it. And if he did it, then he would square things up with him going forward.
Big risk, though, because Marsellus.
Big risk.
Yeah.
But considering the situation Marsellus was in, Marsellus, I think, would have did the right thing. Like, your LA privileges are provoked, but you go on, you got to get out of here. Don't come back to LA ever.
Yeah, you're done. You're out of here. Yeah, Man, it's such an incredible movie. There's so much going on in this thing. Watching it again for the first time in a long time the other night, it honestly felt, there was a part of it that felt brand new to me. I mean, and you bring up again the narrative, the soundtrack. I don't know if I would go as far to call it a perfect movie, because Fabian's in it, so she kind of annoys me a little bit.
She brings it down. She brings
it down a little bit, but not enough not to be rated really highly. Let's go through some of the characters. You essentially have three main characters in this. You have Jules, you have Vincent, and you have Butch. Do you guys, I'll start with you, Lloyd. Do you have a favorite of those characters? Like, is there one that you want to see the movie go back to more often?
You know, it used to be Jules, because I just love his arc and I love his delivery. But I think the last time I watched it, you know, most recently, I really, I go to Vincent now. I really like the Vincent character and, you know, like what he's about, his, like I said before, his sort of goofy earnestness. He's just, I mean, he's a killer.
Oh yeah.
But, you know, he just like going back to that scene in the bathroom, you know, he's just talking himself through it. And I just love seeing all the scenes with Vince.
All right, Shane, is there one that you, I know you like Vince a lot, so.
Right. I flip-flopped with Lloyd. It used to be Vince, but upon watching it again, I was drawn towards more Jules in his story arc and his redemption path, as far as like seeing the miracle in front of him that happened to him in that scene. And he truly was transformed as an individual and wanted to walk the path that he wanted to walk towards the end of the movie. So I resonated this time more with Jules and his scenes and the way Samuel Jackson portrayed that character. Vince is it's razor thin between Jules and Vincent, and Butch is I enjoyed Tim Roth's scenes more than I enjoyed Butch's scenes in this movie.
Yeah.
No knock on Bruce Willis, but you know what I mean?
I agree. If there has to be a weak link in the threesome, it's Butch's stuff. I mean, even though I called out the pawn shop as a great moment, it's still the weakest stuff. I think I used to really enjoy the Vincent stuff too, and I still do, but I think I kind of pay more attention to the Jules stuff. Samuel L. Jackson just spits that dialogue out like it's on fucking fire. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's unreal. There's some moments in this movie that I really love because it's little tidbits of information you get along the way that don't add to the story really, but add to a layered background. There's one bit where when they're in the pawn shop where Zed says to Maynard, go put him in Russell's old room. Who's Russell? Like, don't you want to know who Russell is? Is Russell the old Gimp? Is this is the new Gimp another guy? Like, I'm dead serious. There's little bits and pieces that are said, like the whole thing with Vince in Amsterdam. Why did he go to Amsterdam for 3 years? Was he hiding? Why did he come back? There's a brilliant moment in this. I don't know if either one of you guys noticed this or not. And I don't know if I've ever noticed this before watching this. When they're at Jack Rabbit Slim's and Mia is making conversation with Butch, she asks him about Amsterdam. And then she says to him, you know, I go there once a year for about a month to chill out. And she has this look like she's lying because she wants to connect with him. Did you guys read that at all? Like, I just thought it was a brilliant acting choice. Watch it again. You could totally tell she's saying something to a guy that she just wants to talk to on his level. And she's probably never been to Amsterdam.
Well, I just watched a lot of the deleted scenes, and there's other scenes that they shot where she goes way more into depth about Amsterdam and about a certain bar, and a picture that she has on the wall. And Vince knows the picture that she's talking about.
See, okay, all right. Well, that's the way it's cut. I like my thought.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
And your thought's better. Your thought is better than the deleted version.
If you watch the scene and the way she eyeballs him, it's almost like she's looking to elicit a reaction from him.
She's certainly trying to make any kind of connection she can.
Yeah,
because usually just sends a bunch of goons or whatever, and
Right. I just love that uncomfortable moment of silence that she says. I just love that line when she says that, like, enjoying the uncomfortable moment of silence between two people.
Yeah. And, she says something else that's really true. There's no better, obviously haven't felt this in a long time because of COVID, but there's no better feeling in the world than coming back from the bathroom in a restaurant and your food's on the table.
Oh, yeah.
She is absolutely fucking right about that. When that happens to me in my life, I'm about ready to do fucking cartwheels down the aisle.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I didn't have to deal with the waitress at all. Yes.
Oh, speaking of Jackrabbit Slims. Yeah, there's something I want to point out. So their waiter is Steve Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi, yeah.
Who is arguably a really bad waiter. There's nothing about him that stands out. He's not friendly. He's not really attentive.
Are you saying he doesn't deserve a tip?
He doesn't deserve a fucking tip.
Yeah.
Which, if you go back to Reservoir Dogs, you'll see that that actor's character in that movie did not believe in tipping waiters.
Correct.
And Steve Buscemi was offered another role in this. I had read it and I can't remember. It wasn't a big role. It was a bigger role than he got, and he couldn't do it because of filming commitments. But he was able to do the cameo, which I found weird. I went on, I think IMDb, and I found a chart of, because obviously Tarantino, we've seen it with Keitel and Buscemi and Roth. And then you see it later with Uma Thurman. He uses the same people a lot over and over again. Steve Buscemi's never done anything with him after this. He only did the first two movies.
So he's got
really?
Yeah, he's never done another QT movie, which I find kind of funny.
Oh, wow. Okay, I never really pieced that together myself.
You got to go on it. There's a chart. It has the actor's name and then the films, and it gives a check to who's
right. Because even Tim Roth was in The Hateful Eight.
Tim Roth was in The Hateful Eight. Yeah, I think he hadn't been in anything since Pulp Fiction.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's just
was two or three, like the most common number of appearances for actors.
Yeah, and then there were some that became like normals later. Like Kurt Russell became a regular later in the last few movies. He popped up, in Once Upon a Time, and he pops up in Hateful Eight, obviously, and Death Proof. So yeah, you got to look at that chart. It's pretty interesting.
Wow, okay.
I'll put it up when we put this episode up. I'll put it up as well. All right, Lloyd, is there anything that you could think of in particular? Any things that connect the Tarantino universe in this film?
Well, I got a few. Let's see if you have any more than mine. Well, you've got in the scene with Brett, the Big Kahuna Burgers, which was also in Reservoir Dogs. And what else?
From Dusk Till Dawn.
Dusk Till Dawn, right? And then you've got the Red Apple cigarettes, and once again, the Fruit Brute cereal. I can't think of any beyond those.
I don't know if this is a trivia or not, and I'm going to put it out there, and maybe a super fan knows the answer to this. But is the sword that Butch gets in the pawn shop, is that a Hattori Hanzo? I don't know the answer to that. We know it's not. So in Kill Bill 2, Bud claims that he pawned his off, but we find out later that it was hidden in a golf bag. So that wasn't it. But I always wondered every time he goes to grab that sword, they make it a point to show it. And later on, obviously, we learn that, the Hattori Hanzo is a big, samurai sword maker in the Tarantino universe. Shane, do you have anything you noticed that was through lines?
Not that Lloyd didn't hit on. Like, everything he hit on is everything I thought of. And I was racking my brain over, is there anything else I could connect everything to? And he hit every point I was going to say. So
I think the only other one that would be a big one, we talked about him a little bit before, but we didn't mention the connection, is that Vincent Vega is supposed to be Mr. Blonde's brother.
Correct. Sure, yeah, I think there's a lot of connection between Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, that there's a lot of connections there. And there was supposed to be a prequel movie that got just canned after a while because he felt the actors are too old to.
Is that the Vega brothers?
Yeah.
Yes, to play younger characters. But now with the aging, who knows?
I'm not big on that de-aging. I don't know if I want to see that.
Me either. If you've seen the recent Robert De Niro shit flick that was.
I avoided it, but yeah, it didn't look great. I guess I don't remember what character it was, but I think in Django Unchained, there is a character named Commander Coons. And I guess that's supposed to be like a distant, early relative of the Christopher Walken character.
So there's another one.
Yeah, Major Coons.
There's some other details that I picked out that
not that there's any kind of common thread, but just stuff that I got a kick out of seeing because I know stuff is put there on purpose. One of them would be the Band-Aid on Marcellus's head. Like, what the fuck is that Band-Aid for? Like, why does he need to have that Band-Aid?
Right. So I'm sorry to cut you off, Lloyd.
Yeah.
But let's dive into this real quick, because the underlying theory is that Marsellus got his soul taken from him. And that's what's in the suitcase. That's why the Band-Aid is there. I don't give a shit what's in the case. To me, that could just be something to move the plot along.
The MacGuffin.
Right, the MacGuffin of the movie.
And that's Tarantino's answer. It's a MacGuffin. There's no answer.
And that doesn't bother me. Does it bother you that you don't know what's in that suitcase? Do you think it's his soul? Do you?
Nope. I think he
I did read something about what the Band-Aid is.
He cut himself shaving.
Right. Vin Rhames had a scar and they're just covering it up. So it wasn't distracting.
Yeah. Right. A couple of the theories are it's Marcellus's soul. He sold it to the devil. That's why the combo is 666. The other one is that it's Elvis's suit from True Romance. He has that gold suit.
Oh yeah. I heard that.
I've heard that, but in the end, again, Tarantino doesn't come out and explain everything to people. But he has said it's a MacGuffin. He uses whatever you want it to be. It is. So,
right. That's fine with me. Do you remember who played Elvis in that True Romance movie?
Oh, it was Val Kilmer, baby. Absolutely.
Okay, there you go.
Kilmer.
All right. Yep.
One of my favorite lines. I like you, Clarence. Always have, always will.
Another funny thing was when they were delivering the adrenaline shot to Uma Thurman.
Yeah.
You could see sitting on an end table 2 board games, Operation and Life.
Oh, really?
If you think about it in the context of what was going on, I thought that was pretty funny. This is something I never got until this particular watching. When they're ordering the milkshakes, in Jack Rabbit Slims, he asks them, "You want that Martin and Lewis or Amos and Andy?"
Oh, I always got that.
I never really got that was vanilla or chocolate.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's stupid me, I guess.
You know what I love
Once
about
I made that connection, like, oh man.
You know what I love about that scene is that is a scene that sticks this movie to 1994. Because if you go to like a Five Guys tomorrow, their milkshakes are probably easily $5.
Right.
Like,
right. $5 milkshake.
A $5 milkshake is not an anomaly anymore. It's a thing.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, another thing that I wrote down, I'm just seeing here, the waitress in the diner, Garcon.
Yeah. Yep.
That's the same waitress from Jackie Brown.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, at the end of the movie, when the wolf takes Raquel out for breakfast, you know who that is, right?
Julia Sweeney,
who played It's Pat on the Saturday Night Live sketches.
Yep.
Which I always wondered, like, it seems like a cameo. But maybe Tarantino's friends with her. I don't know the answer to.
Remember, Kathy Griffin was in a cameo in this movie as well, which is weird when you go back and watch this movie. It's like, okay, she's in this film? Okay.
One of the funniest.
That's right. She has a cameo. Yeah.
One of the funniest damn scenes in this movie, and I'm sorry to say it, is when that lady in the white shorts gets shot in the hip. I laughed so fucking hard. I'm sorry, lady, but that was some funny shit. When Marcellus, I love that when Marcellus pulls the gun out and they're all just like they take off.
So when they're in the room after the shootout in Brett's room, where they kill everybody, but Marvin Nash.
Marvin Nash. So the guy comes out of the bathroom, right, and shoots him and misses him. And then you see 4 bullet holes or whatever in the wall behind him. If you pause that before that guy comes out of the bathroom, you can see those same 4 holes in the wall. Oh yeah,
already.
I'm sure there's some continuity stuff there. I did.
It almost looked intentional to me because it was so obvious.
I did want to ask you guys, Shane, did you find it weird that this, I guess maybe in the heat of the moment, going in, but they asked the question very specifically, how many people are in the apartment? And he says it could be up to 5, including our guy. When they walk in, there's only 3 guys visible, right? There's Marvin, who Jules knows is their informant, and then Brett and Flock of Seagulls. But they said 3 to 5. Did you guys find it weird that they didn't search the rest of I get it. There has to be the moment where the guy pops out, but it would have almost been better if he popped out from under the bed or something. Like, it just seems like they didn't put any, and again, maybe this is written in to be that these guys aren't the best criminals either. I don't know.
I really didn't put much thought to that. Yeah. I just thought the way, especially John Travolta's character was like, just kind of like not chill, but like, I think once they entered the apartment, they just assumed that was maybe they're not the best hitmen. Let's put it that way. Maybe they're not the best hitman. I just assumed what they saw in front of them was going to be it, and they didn't need to search anywhere because it was kind of a small apartment. It's not like it was a well laid out, place. So
it was tiny.
Right, it was tiny. So I thought once they walked in there and saw what was in front of them, that was it. So I didn't find it a surprise that they didn't search anywhere else in that apartment.
Okay. All right. Fair. I thought about that. We get the second trunk shot right before they walk into the apartment. That's Tarantino's famous for, when they open up the trunk and they're complaining about not having shotguns. I did find this funny as well. And tell me if you guys found this funny. When Butch goes to his apartment to get the watch, he sees Vincent's Mac 10 on the counter. Vincent's taking a shit. It's got a silencer on it. When they go to kill these dudes at 7 a.m, they unload 2 fucking pistols into these 3 guys with no silencers at 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Like I hadn't seen this in a long time. And I immediately thought, this is poor planning. Like, he's going to silently kill Butch and they're going to fucking, like, as loudly as possible murder these 3 kids.
Right. Like I said, bad hitmen, I guess.
Yeah.
I thought that too. But when I first watched it, because they shot Flock of Seagulls like once, right? Once or twice. But man, they unloaded on Frank Whaley's character. And I thought that was very excessive.
Not just very excessive, dangerous. One of them shooting from the front, one shooting from the back. I thought, okay, all right, you guys might want to. I'm sure they know what they're doing, but like, one's enough, right?
They unloaded their clips into that kid, and I thought the same thing. Like, no silencers. They shot 12 times.
It's like, early in the morning.
Super early. 7:22. I think they said 7:22. They're at Jimmy's house at 8 o'clock.
Right. Speaking of that scene in Butch's house, there's another thing that I guess I just never made a connection, or maybe just forgot about it. But when Butch goes in there, right, and the place looks empty, but then he sees the gun, the Mac 10 on the counter. And then Vince comes out of the bathroom. I always remember thinking, well, it's odd that he came out of the bathroom, but he wasn't surprised. Like, he was making noise, right? He came in the house. He was getting Pop-Tarts. Yeah. But what I finally understood, and this, I totally get it now, is Vince wasn't there alone. That wasn't Vince's gun. That was Marcellus's gun. Jules was gone already. So
he's going to get the donuts.
Yeah. Marcellus was there with Vince, put his gun down, went to get coffee. That's the whole connection. That's how that whole thing played out. So when he heard Butch come in the house, he thought it was Marcellus returning and wasn't surprised that somebody was in the house.
Shit, I've never pieced that together.
No, me neither.
It went down. Yeah.
Me neither.
That's why he saw Marcellus as he was leaving.
Wow. I've never put that together.
Right.
You got me too. I never ever thought of that because he's leaving the apartment when he runs into Marcellus. And why does
Marcellus have 2 coffees with him?
Right. Why does he have a box of donuts? Look at that, man. Look at that.
Right? Something new.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Finally put it together.
There are people listening to the show right now going, these guys are doing the Quentin Tarantino podcast.
Right? What are these idiots?
What are these fucking idiots doing?
I highly doubt all those people put that shit together. I'm calling you people out right now.
Why don't we go through real quick a little bit of the box office, and then we're going to do our individual ratings, and then we're going to get out of here.
All right. Let's go through this quick. So that weekend, October 14th through the 16th, top 5, I'll give you. Little Giants, number 5. The River Wild, number 4. Wes Craven's New Nightmare, number 3. The Specialist, number 2. Pulp Fiction at $9 million, number 1. All right. So the budget for this thing was $8.5 million, by the way.
Yeah.
So first weekend, it made its money. And then for the year, 1994, the year. So you've got Pulp Fiction came in at number 10 at $107.9 million.
So it's so little money compared to like what a movie does in one weekend now.
Right. Right. Then number 9, you had The Mask. Number 8, Speed. Number 7, Clear and Present Danger. Number 6, Dumb and Dumber. Number 5, The Flintstones. Number 4, The Santa Claus. Number 3, True Lies. It's good. Number 2, The Lion King. This is good. And number 1, Forrest Gump.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. This thing, 7 Oscar nominations, only 1 win, but still 7 Oscar nominations for your second movie. Nominated for Best Picture, lost to Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump is a great movie, but not better than Pulp Fiction. But I do like Forrest Gump. Best Director, he did not win that year as well. Best Original Screenplay with Roger Avery, he did win. Best Actor, Travolta did not win. Best Supporting Actor, Samuel L. Jackson, he did not win. Best Supporting Actress, Uma Thurman, she did not win. And Best Film Editing, Sally Menke, she did not win. But obviously this thing, I think it's very clear to say and very easy to say that even though we're only on movie 2 of the 10 that we're going to talk about, this is by far the cornerstone of Tarantino's career. This is the one that, no matter who you are, you're probably going to identify with him. You could not like this movie. You could think that Hateful Eight is his best. But if someone were to say to you, quick, name a movie that Quentin Tarantino, directed, wrote, you're going to probably go to Pulp Fiction first, because this was a phenomenon. This movie was a fucking cultural phenomenon in 1994. And here we are 27 years later. And it's still, I'm sure there are kids, teenagers now watching this. And just like Shane said, there's a sense of timelessness to it, because even though this was in the 90s, this movie feels like it could have been in the 70s. There's nothing anchoring it to a time almost. Right. So it's almost universal. All right, let's start off. We're going to finish with our guest. 5 scale, quarter scale possible. Let's rate Pulp Fiction. I'm going to start. I'll make it easy. I'm going to start. Fabian excluded, because she could be a little bit of a problem. I don't care. And this is probably the last one that'll get this, because Reservoir Dogs got it as well. This is getting a 5. This is a 5-star, 5, whatever you want to call it, 5 firecrackers. This is a 5-star movie to me. I had no problem when I watched this the other night and went on my letterbox just hitting 5 on it. And I don't hit 5 on a lot of stuff. Dialogue, characters, quotability, everything we've talked about, a 5. Lloyd, what do you give this?
There's no question. This is a 5. The linear structure demands your attention. Not the nonlinear structure demands your attention. The dialogue, is great. It's intoxicating to sort of rediscover how enjoyable a good movie can be. Yeah. It's full of momentum and energy, never slow or boring. It's a definite 5, quotable, like you wouldn't believe, rewatchable, like you wouldn't believe. Yeah, 5.
Shane's seen this 176 times. He said it's his favorite movie of all time. So all I'm going to say is if he gives it anything less than a 5, I'm going to be thunderstruck. But you're our guest. Now, before you give your number out, tell everybody out there on the QT land where they could find you and listen to you and what your show's all about.
Oh, thank you. You can go to my Facebook page, Media Mosh, or just go to the Apple Podcast Store, download me there. It's Media Mosh. And I just kind of try to talk about anything going on, like Apple TV, Amazon, Netflix, all the streaming services, and just kind of what I watch, my particular view on everything, and try to give you the average Joe's perspective on just what's going on. So I try to keep it short. That's what I pride myself on. Like every podcast is like 20 to 25 minutes. So it's very just, listenable. It's not that long. And you're right. I give this, again, this is my favorite movie of all time. I'll defend this movie to the hill. Even with Fabian in it, it's a 5. I mean, it's a 5. The cultural impact of this movie, the quotability, which doesn't make a movie good, but I mean, this movie is so fucking quotable and is probably the best well-written movie. And I go back to True Romance with Patricia Arquette saying, you're so cool. When I first saw this movie is the coolest movie I've ever seen in my life. It's still the fucking coolest movie I've ever seen in my life. It just exudes coolness. And the performances by Samuel Jackson and John Travolta, like I said, sorry, Urban Cowboy fans, it's the best he's ever done. There'll never, in my book, be a better movie than Pulp Fiction.
That's a pretty solid statement. Well, I guess one more thing I didn't say earlier that I wanted to bring up is, what is it? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Around the time this came out, you started seeing movies like 2 Days in the Valley.
Oh, yeah.
Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead, Go, Suicide Kings, which they all have one thing in common. Whether they're good, bad, or ugly, they're all like desperately trying to suck off the tit of Pulp Fiction.
Right. Or Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
And a little tidbit. This is how much I love Quentin Tarantino. My past dog was named Jules for the Samuel Jackson character. My current boxer is named Beatrix Kiddo. So that's okay. How much I love Quentin Tarantino.
Well, Shane, I'm glad that you came on. Your show's great. Seriously, go out there and check them out. And I'm glad that you got Pulp Fiction. I feel like it's almost, I feel like the hand of fate.
Kismet, you got your favorite movie.
The hand of fate reached my hand in to pull your name out for this one.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. So next week on the QT, we'll be back with our friend Melissa, and we'll be talking about Jackie Brown. Ooh, that's a divisive one, but we're going to have fun. So be here for that. In the meantime, go to Forgotten Entertainment. You can check out all the rest of the great shows these guys put out. Here's just a small sampling of them. Forgotten Cinema, yet another MCU podcast, which I think at this point is over when these are coming out, but you can always go back and listen to the episodes. If you like beers and craft beers, cracking one open. If you like Netflix original movies, our buddy Andrew Morgan and the Nomcast is a fantastic show. And if you're into video games, Two Player Bros. So check all those out. And one more thing, if you liked Lloyd and I, if you had a good time with this show and you've never heard our show that we do, Pint O'Comics, just go to Apple Podcasts, go to Spotify, Pint O''Comics, and you can find us at Facebook at Pint O'Comics, Twitter at Pint O'Comics, also Instagram at Pint_O_Comics. Lloyd, let's get out of here. We'll see you next week.
Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead.